First, most women find most men unattractive, and online dating has inflated women's perception of their attractiveness. Let me repeat that. First, most women find most men unattractive, and online dating has inflated women's perception of their attractiveness. Men, the dating experts at the world renowned New York Post want you to know that your dating standards are too high. You need to bring them down even further than what they already are. They're on the floor, they got to go even lower. Is she a single mother? You are not allowed to know that. Has she ridden so many men that she can be called the town bicycle? How dare you? How dare you ask that? Is she obese? You know what that is? That is fat phobia. Every overweight person is unequivocally gorgeous and, of course, is entitled to any man that she wants. No questions asked. This lovely specimen in my thumbnails is one of those lovely ladies that could very well be your future wife. If it wasn't so much fun to laugh at, it would honestly just be sad. However, we all know the propaganda machines, they gotta just keep spinning. As more and more men walk away from online dating and hell, walk away from dating in general, women are increasingly desperate to bring them back to the table. Men, where are you? Please come back. This is their latest attempt. Will it succeed? There's not a chance in hell. But let's take a look at their newest trick. Let's put that in quotes there, to get men to completely abandon their standards. Spoiler, it's a new spin on an age-old thing called hypergamy. All right, here is the article filed under Sex and Relationships by Andrew Court. You have to love it when a man tries to spew this crap at other men. Really is a traitor, if you ask me. Men need to lower their standards on dating apps, new study shows. Anytime I see the word study, I immediately question its validity. Toxic feminism has infiltrated every single academic institution. I don't care which one you have or which one you attend. You know they do. And that also includes the institutions that publish this scientific research. You don't have to be overly intelligent. You really don't have to be intelligent at all to see the biases in it. All you have to do is just assume that if it's a study, that there's someone pushing some sort of agenda, and you'll be good. There's long been a theory on dating apps. 80% of women are pursuing the top 20% of men. But, new research reveals it's actually fellas who are aiming too high up there, guys, when swiping for love. This is the biggest pile of crap that I've ever heard. And I've heard some big piles of crap. No sane man who's been in the dating market for the last 3 to 5 years, maybe even say 10 years, there's not a single man that believes that. The 80-20 rule, that comes from data released by OkCupid back in 2009. It was on a blog post on their website that they eventually deleted. But thankfully, somebody archived it. I'll put a link to it below if you want to read the whole study, but here it is. I'll take my face out of the way so you can see the data. So this first graph shows how men rated women on the app with a score of 0 to 5. Lo and behold, even unnormalized, most women were rated as at least average, with an equal mix of attractive over here and unattractive women over here. This is the well known bell curve. And I think it pretty accurately represents the reality of women from attractive to unattractive, not only that you'll find on the app, but probably in the real world. Now, here is the same data, but for women. You can quickly see that this is nowhere near normal, as 80%, I think that was like 80 to 81% of the women rated, or 81% of the men were rated unattractive by women. We know in reality, 80% of the men in the world are not unattractive. Let's get real. International researchers analyzed the behavior of almost 3,000 heterosexual users of a Czech dating app, with their findings published earlier this week in this PLOS One journal. Why would they choose a random Czech dating app to get their information from? Now, you could say that maybe it's the only one that they could get access to. That's possible. But does it really represent what the average experience is for a man and separately for a woman on a dating app? There were a couple of interesting demographics as well. 3,000 users were selected across two major cities in the Czech Republic, with an average age of 28 for the users. Also, these users were rated as highly educated. Now, my assumption would be when I hear highly educated, master's degrees and PhDs. I have my doubts that this data is really useful outside the Czech Republic. I actually think that they may have chosen this data because it helped to push their narrative. But I suppose it's what we have, so we'll work with it and see what it gives us. Men tended to express interest in women who were more desirable than themselves, while women typically pursued men of more similar desirability, the team uncovered. That's a lie. To classify how desirable each user was, researchers counted the number of swipes they received from other people on the app. There were more male users, meaning that female users generally ranked more highly in this hierarchy. This does not reflect real-world behavior in men and women. We know that. So, where is the flaw? The flaw is on the number of men versus the number of women that are on dating apps. It isn't published here, but I went and pulled the numbers from the study, and the ratio of women to men was roughly 1 to 4. So, there were if I can put my fingers up here, there were 4 times as many men looking at the women's profiles. That also means that there was 4 times as many chances for those women to get a like versus the men. And the attractiveness rank of a woman was assigned based 100% on the raw, not the percentage, the raw number of likes she received. So, do you now see the issue? The women, by design, had a higher attractiveness rank than the men. Let me break this down a different way. A woman who in the real world has let's say a 3 sexual market value, an SMV. In this study, the way it was designed boosts her to a 5, maybe a 6, hell, even a 7. The entire study was skewed in favor of women. Thus, claiming that men were shooting too high, shooting for the moon here, technically, it was true, but it was only true through data manipulation in how the study was designed. While researching this, I also found a point of manipulation in the OkCupid data. Let me go back to it here. It shows that men messaged more attractive women at a much higher rate, which you can see right here, while women messaged less attractive men at a significantly higher rate, which you can see here. I couldn't wrap my head around how these two data points were true. because we all know that it isn't. That isn't how things work in the real world. I'll link the Reddit post below along with the other link to this research. But somebody pointed out on this Reddit post what likely is going on. This data does not account for which groups of men and which groups of women are sending all those messages. Attractive men are far more likely to send messages to these attractive women, and they're also far more likely to send more messages. So they're not just going to send it to a few, but they're going to send it to this whole range of people. We go down here to the attractive women. These attractive women down here, they don't need to send messages to anyone to get attention. They have plenty coming their way. The less attractive women, the women down here, if they want attention, they're going to have to be more proactive, significantly more proactive. That means they're going to have to send a lot more messages to these men. These men, because they're unattractive and probably don't have a lot of confidence, they aren't going to be likely to send messages to anybody. Also, these are the men that are going to most closely reflect similar sexual market value to the less attractive women. So, in both of these studies, one from 2009 and one from just a few weeks ago, the data was manipulated to imply that men are setting their standards too high. While that's true, we can still use this manipulated data to better understand the behavior of women in online dating. What does it tell us? First, most women find most men unattractive, and online dating has inflated women's perception of their attractiveness. Let me repeat that. First, most women find most men unattractive, and online dating has inflated women's perception of their attractiveness. I would argue that it's inflated their perception of their attractiveness significantly. So, what's the takeaway for men? Very simple. Men need to walk away from online dating. Period. As long as they continue to inflate women's egos through likes and attention, those same women will continue to further increase their expectations as they think that they are better than they are. Sooner or later, if enough men walk away, and it's probably going to be much later, much later, women will finally get it through their heads that their expectations of men can't be set to perfection. It just can't. Unfortunately, I expect that it probably will not be in my lifetime. I also think that men need to avoid women in the real world too, but that is a topic for a completely different video. I certainly don't want to get into that one because this video will go way too long. Men, hold your standards, be strong, and continue to let the women rage. That is not our problem.